Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to part 2 of episode 1 of Life After the Big Audition. I'm in my car now. I'm going to talk about, before I started up, I talked about everything AGT and that. But before all that happened, my full birth name is Robert Albert Keyes Jr. A lot of people don't know I'm a junior. Robert Albert Keyes Jr. And I was born January 20th, 1971. Is the year I was born. I'm from a small town in Martins Ferry, Ohio. Living in Martins Ferry is Ohio's first settlement. It's Ohio's first settlement. And I've lived in 3 different towns as I grew up. I lived in Martins Ferry most of my life, and then we moved over to Wheeling. Lived in Wheeling, West Virginia, right across the Ohio River. And then the other side, and then I lived in Bellaire, Ohio, which was up the Ohio River. So I was pretty much, as I grew up in the valley. They call it the Ohio Valley. And that's what they call my area, the Ohio Valley. And that's pretty much where I grew up. I grew up in the Ohio Valley. I actually grew up between 2 hills and the Ohio River, where I grew up. And like I said, I'm proud of my way I lived. And when I was growing up and I was in elementary school, I started out in kindergarten, and I was mentally handicapped. A lot of people don't know, but I was mentally slow and handicapped. Mentally handicapped. I couldn't work as fast as the other kids. So what I did was, I hated going to school. I just hated going to school when I was in kindergarten. But they tested me and found out I was a slow learner. So I ended up being in DH classes when I was in kindergarten. Well, first grade, I went into them classes, and I had a teacher by the name of Martha Volan. And I'm going to tell you guys, Martha Volan changed my life as far as being a teacher. She was a great teacher. I mean, she had a lot of patience. She was an old school teacher. She was like one of those teachers that a lot of the parents, the people I was in class with, she had their parents, and their older brothers or older sisters, and me, I'm the youngest of 2. I got a sister that's 4 years older than me. She's happily married, has 4 kids. I live at home. I still live. I bought a house a year ago. I live in Martins Ferry currently, still, Martins Ferry, Ohio. And Martins Ferry, Ohio is located 120 miles east of Columbus, Ohio. So that's where I was born and raised, pretty much, in Martins Ferry. And I was born in Martins Ferry Hospital. But it was me and my sister. Like I said, she was about 5 years old when I was born. So actually almost 5. Well, she was 5 years old when I was born. So it was great for us. I mean, growing up, we had a lot of move after my dad and mom divorced when I was 8 years old, and a lot of moving around, and it was a lot of moving around. We did some moving around. My mom got remarried and married one of the most wonderfulest guys you'd ever want to meet. He was my stepfather since day one, since I was probably 9 years old. And then mom and dad divorced, and my dad left when I was probably 8 years old. He left. And then my mom met this one guy she worked with, and he ended up being my stepfather. And he was actually like he was my real father, actually, because he treated us like we were gold, me and my sister. He treated me and my sister and my mom like, I mean, he was a great human being. But he's not with us anymore, you know. He had multiple sclerosis, passed away back in 2009. I miss him a lot, you know. I'm always going to miss him, you know, regardless, you know. But we'll go back a little further. But I remember a lot of good things as growing up, you know. When I was in school, we moved to different schools, and, you know, and I moved to three different school districts. And then went back to my original school. And we moved when I was in third grade. And then when I was in fifth grade, we moved to Belair, and in Belair, Ohio. And I went to Indian Run School, went there in fifth grade. And in sixth grade, I went back to Elm Elementary, which was in my hometown of Martins Ferry. And I had Mrs. Stalter as a teacher. And she was a good teacher also. And I was in DH classes a lot, you know, and but it was fun. I mean, going to class, going to school. But I got serious about my schooling, my studying. I was always a good student, and I started getting serious. I got on the honor roll a lot. I worked hard. I had a good work ethic and everything. I mean, a real good work ethic, which I thought was awesome. Awesome. It was a good work ethic, and people liked me, and you know, all my everybody. And I had a good time. And up to when I got in junior high, you know, I made it. You know, I made it and made the honor roll, and it was great. I mean, it was fantastic. But when I got in high school, it was hard when I got in high school. But I worked in high school, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th at Martins Ferry High School, where I graduated. And I currently work Martins Ferry High School as a custodian. But I started working it as in my junior year, my sophomore year, I started working work-study program. I was still in DH classes. And my freshman year was a tough transition, but I had Joe Galla was my teacher. Joe Galla, he was our teacher, and he was also the work-study teacher also. And I had Mr. Kozar too. Mr. Galla was wonderful. And they both were wonderful, but Mr. Galla seen some things in me. You know, he knew I was a hard worker, and he saw some things in me, and he realized that, hey, you know, this kid is working hard, and he's got a good head on his shoulders, and that's what he always said. You know, always, you know. So he had me do all kinds of stuff. You know, and did run errands for him. You know, he was our basketball coach also, and it was great. And one of the greatest moments of my life, and my junior year, when we used to have work-study banquets every year, you know, and those are the banquets that you know, you got to all the different schools around the valley, around the area. There's 4 different schools that had this program, this work-study program. And what you do is every year they have a banquet, and they speak, and then they vote the best worker of the year, work-study student of the year award. They get a plaque. Which my junior year, we went to that dinner, and my teacher, you know, they were calling the other 4 different school districts. Then they called my name. You know, I made work study of the student of the year, and that was back in 1989 is when I got work study student of the year, and it was a fun moment. It was a great moment for me. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, nothing could ever replace that feeling when I got worker of the year. You know, that was great. I was proud of myself, but I had to keep on going and keep on with the momentum and just pay more attention and kept more focused. So that's what I did. But when I was in 6th grade, I got an award being a top student, which I didn't know I had the award until when I was in 8th grade. Well, I got it in 6th grade, and in 7th grade, they forgot to give it to me, and they gave it to me. So that was a great highlight, too. I mean, all that hard work paid off, and ended up, it was great, guys. I mean, it was great. It was coming up, and going to high school, and Mr. Gala was big inspiration to me, and I worked hard, and I had my best friend Wayne Wines, and he was my best friend. They called him the Train. Our football coach, he was our phys ed teacher. He called him the Train, so which was funny, but I still call him that today. Me and him both are 48 years old. We'll be 49 in the winter, and I still call him Train, and it stuck to me, just like me as Disco Bob, but he's been the Train a lot longer. But I'll get into that later about the Disco Bob thing. But like I said, we went skating. We went to when I getting into skating. When I first started roller skating, went to a birthday. Well, my mom had a party at her work, and I was only probably 9 years old, and she had a party at the local skating rink. And I've never went skating, never been skating. We used to go skateboarding and stuff like that and all that, but I've never went roller skating. So what I did was, we went to that party, and I lied to my friends and said, yeah, I know how to roller skate. I put the roller skates on, and I fell right down. I was so embarrassed, and I was scared, and it was awesome. And then I learned how to skate as I went. And then me and my sister, and my sister's friend and their boyfriends, and we all went skating every weekend. Every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday we went roller skating. That was a good pastime for us. And that's how I got into roller skating. That's what I started doing. I started getting into roller skating a lot more, and I enjoyed it. And I quit for a long, long time, which I could kick myself. But I was 9, 10, 11 years old. I was 10. I quit when I was 11, and I went back when I was 18, and I never stopped. So guys, this is all for this episode. For part 2 of this episode 1, I'm going to get off here, and I'm going to talk more about, we'll pick up from where I left off at. We're going to get more in depth about my skating and my life, especially after roller skate, especially after I graduated high school. We'll talk about after I graduated high school, and where I was after I graduated high school, and all that. We'll get into that after when we get into episode 2. I'll talk about my life after high school, and after I graduated high school, and how I got my job and everything, and how everything good happened to me. So we'll get into that more in depth for next episode. So hey, thank you, everybody. So this is it for this episode of Life After the Big Audition. So everybody have a good one. So long. Thanks for your support. Bye-bye.